You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
Well, hello, good evening, and not me, Ethan or Reagan got our predictions right. Well, I nearly got my prediction right, and I think 3-0. But anyway, Scotland 2, Belarus 1, and another. It's weird me saying this, guys, but 6 points. But disappointing over the two games. Joined tonight by Ethan and Alex to look back in that exciting 98 minutes that we saw tonight at Hampden Park. Ethan, try and sum that one up.
Yeah, another really hard to watch Scotland performance, the same as Thursday night against Greece, and I think you can forgive that kind of thing against the top opposition when you get a really good result like we did on Thursday night, but tonight was unacceptable, and the full-time reaction from the fans said all boos around the stadium because the performance just wasn't good enough against a team that Scotland should be easily beating, and just so negative, so predictable in a way, and they invited the Belarus pressure onto them. They sat off Belarus, especially in the second half. No pressure on the ball whatsoever. They got their deserved goal right at the end, and probably deserved to take something from the match, which shows the embarrassing state of how poorly Scotland are playing at the moment. Having said all that, we're sitting top of the group and in a really nice position. And regardless of what happens in the other game later on in Copenhagen between Denmark and Greece, Scotland have got it in their hands to decide their fate of World Cup qualifying or not. But I just haven't taken any confidence from the last two games, and I know that it's a great habit to win and get positive results, but as I mentioned on the pre-show, I think poor performances only eventually catch up to you, and it was such a poor performance. It was just so bad, and I come away from the game with the emotion of frustration rather than anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It was horrid, a horrid watch. I'd even go so far as to say it was worse than watching Rangers this season. You know, that's saying a lot. Of course, Scotland did get the win, but you know, a team. Graham put in the chat there 55 places between us and Belarus. I think something, I can't remember the exact statistic, but in Belarus's last, I think it was 10 World Cup qualifiers match, the aggregate score is like 34-4 or something. You know, and Denmark took 6 off them. Greece, I think, took 4 off them.
5.
5. Yeah, 5. And it's so poor. The performance was really flat. Before I start ripping everyone to shreds, I think I have a couple of players that I thought were okay. Ben Doak, although he needs to work on his end product, Ben Gannon Doak, sorry, although he needs to work on his end product, he really needs to he really needs to do that. But I thought he was positive on the night. One guy that I don't know if it's just because the rest of the team's been rubbish that he's kind of standing out to me, but one guy over the last couple of international breaks that I think, weirdly enough, that it's been his best stint in a Scotland shirt has been Shea Adams. He's just been better all round, I think, and I'd have him again starting up top going into the next break. But the rest of them were shambolic. The poor decision making, not any tempo in the game at all. You know, moving the ball really slowly, treating Belarus as if they were better than they were, and then Belarus got the chances, and they probably should have, you know, got something from the game with the way that they did play well. Don't take anything away from Belarus, but the players we've got, we should have been, you know, blowing them away, and that wasn't the case. And then, well, I know we'll talk through the game, but Steve Clarke as well making some stupid, weird decisions. Like we were speaking before we went live there about why was he bringing on John Suter and Kieran Tierney, and it's just really odd all round again from, it's what we've come to expect from Steve Clarke, but I think you said poor performances will catch up with you eventually. And if this continues, I don't see us getting anything in Athens. Make no mistake, the game against Greece on Thursday, good win, but it was a fluke victory because we were rubbish in that game as well. And then if we host Denmark at Hampden like that, Denmark will run over the top of us.
Yeah, I would completely agree with almost all of the points Alex made. And when you're playing a team like Belarus, the rankings below, as Graham referenced to in the chat, you need to make attacking positive substitutions, and waiting until the 88th minute to make a midfielder or striker substitution is just baffling. See, even if Scotland had played excellently and were 5-0 up, you would expect substitutions before that. But the only subs he made was to switch out Ralston and Hendry for Tierney and Suter, as Alex mentioned. And yeah, the back four were terrible, especially the disallowed goal. It was embarrassing defending. Ralston just doesn't do enough to try and even stop the cross. And then McKenna and Hendry are on their heels. The ball just rolls behind them, and Robertson's sleeping at the back post. Just a terrible goal from sort of every angle. And I would agree. I think the only players who maybe got pass marks, Angus Gunn didn't do anything wrong as the keeper. Shea Adams, I thought, was positive, got his goal. Nearly won a penalty if it wasn't for a sort of a couple of handballs. And yeah,
that was mental. That whole sequence was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and Ben Gannon-Doak as well. I thought he was positive, but he did lack that sort of end product, whether it be a shot, a cross, or whatever. But just they couldn't even get Scotland's sort of main players into the game enough. Scott McTominay, John McGinn were on the periphery of the match, and obviously McTominay gets his goal. The celebration kind of tells you how not just maybe himself, but the team as a whole played. Scotland got off the hook with the goal that Belarus obviously scored. It got disallowed for, rightfully so, I'd say, for the foul on McTominay. I thought they got all the VAR issues correct, but I think when VAR is one of the main talking points of the game between Scotland and Belarus, then I think that tells the story of everything that's went wrong here. And I think I see Graham referencing to they had 20 attempts. I think it was 20 attempts, and by the end they got it to 22, which equaled their total from the other 3 games they had played in the group previously. They had more expected goals in Scotland on the night, more possession than they've had in any other matches by 9%, which is quite a lot. What was the other stat? More non-penalty expected goals than the other 3 games combined, because the only other goal they managed was a penalty against Greece in the opening game. As Alex mentioned, Greece and Denmark scored 5 and 6 in 90 minutes. We've managed 4 goals in 180 minutes, probably close to 200 minutes with added time. So I think that says all the problems of why Steve Clarke comes under fire. Despite the positive results, performances are nowhere near good enough, and I just feel we're going down a sort of inevitable road into these last 2 games. And even if we get to the World Cup, is it going to be the same story as the last 2 tournaments?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't see any situation where it isn't.
Alex, James, sorry, Graham's asking in the chat, and I think he is. Is Robertson done with international football?
I think that's an interesting one, because for me, I don't think Andy Robertson has ever been really good at international level.
Fair point. Yeah,
he's not. He's never really stood out to me. I don't think I can't pick out one game where I thought Andy Robertson was excellent for Scotland. I can think of games from McGinn. I can think of games for even Cal McGregor, obviously Scott McTominay, even the likes of Lyndon Dykes and stuff like that. I can think he was good that game. I can't, I think he's been fine, but I don't think he's ever like sort of taken his club form into international football. I think that has been one of the main complaints from Scotland fans over the years. It's certainly been one of my main complaints about him. So it is an interesting question from Graham, because in my eyes, I don't think he's ever been really good at international level. If he's getting worse, then probably, yeah, he probably should be done. But then who do you have in there? Obviously, Kieran Tierney's a really good player, but he's not reliable. And then who are you looking at for your? I can't even think of anyone off the top of my head. If I don't know, I know Hickey can play left back, but he's not reliable in terms of injuries either. So yeah, if I think if Robertson is gone, it leaves us in a bit of a situation, because although Andy Robertson isn't great, I think he's the best of a bad bunch we've got in terms of options. Maybe Josh Doig, but he's not really had a stint in the team, so I'm not 100% sure.
Ethan, let's go through the games and pick out the bones, as it were. By way, I thought the atmosphere was so flat tonight for a Sunday night at 5 o'clock. I thought that they would have been up for the game, going to the pub before the game and all that. The atmosphere was like a pre-season friendly, as well. On the park, Belarus were the better team. In fact, you would be mistaken to think Scotland were like Belarus, because and Belarus was like Scotland, if that makes sense, because they were the better team, more shots in goal. Angus Gunn was the busiest keeper out of the two goalkeepers. Shea Adams had the first shot on goal. What was it? After half an hour. Up until that, you were watching the game through your fingernail, through your fingers, and then it just continued from there.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think the first 15 minutes just summed up Steve Clarke and his Scotland team, especially across this this campaign of qualifying. Absolutely terrible performance, but they go 1-0 ahead, and it's a really good goal from Shea Adams. And initially, obviously, they think it's offside, but the right back, I believe, his legs playing on one side, is really well controlled, and a good finish as well. And you're expecting Scotland to kick on from there, but just went back to their sort of what they know, you could say, and it was just negative and really poor. And you just never really thought that Scotland were going to get that second goal before Scott McTominay did get it. And I would agree with the points on Andy Robertson as well. I think he's the best Scotland have got in that position, but he hasn't always he rarely has, in fairness, sort of found his club form at international level, and that's always difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. I do maybe think that the style that he's playing in is obviously a lot different, and that possibly affects him, because I think the saying is that a team is a reflection of their manager. The perfect example of that, I think, is always Atletico Madrid with Diego Simeone. Just crazy, but I would describe them. And Steve Clarke, I would have to describe as his team as boring, because that's what they've been. And the highs of the last qualifying campaign, last Euro qualifying campaign, seem a long time ago now, and I really don't have any confidence going into the last two games, despite the position we're in. And I questioned the point whether we get to a tournament, will we see any different? I don't think we will, because I think the way Steve Clarke's always sort of set out his teams as to just to do the bare minimum, to get by and get the results, just to keep ticking along. And I think we've got a better team than that. And I think a lot of people were giving plaudits to Northern Ireland, for example, the other night against Slovakia, I think it was, when they beat Slovakia, a really good result for Northern Ireland. And they were really positive in their play. And I don't think they have nearly as good a team as Scotland. And it just shows, if you sort of course, there's ways to play football, but Scotland seem like a team that are trying to build from the defence as the priority, and we don't have great defenders. I don't.
Sorry, Ethan. And the thing is, as well, it's not as if we're asking to play tiki-taka against the likes of Germany and France and stuff like that. Just have a go at Belarus, for God's sake. Like, honestly, I'm getting sick of it. Every single game is like he's, setting up as if he's still the Kilmarnock manager, trying to go negative and sort of limit
square
goals.
balls as well.
What'd you say, Michael?
Square balls along the back.
Yeah, exactly.
But in saying that, to be fair, Alex, like that's kind of like creeping into football now. Not only Scotland, but Celtic, Rangers, and all the rest of it. Even the Premiership in England, they're playing square balls at the back, and before you know it, it's back to the goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's something you get taught from a young age as well. Don't do that, and I see it all the time, and it gives me the fear when I see it, especially in this sort of modern day football. But yeah, it's brute. It's a brutal watch. I don't think there's any other way. Diabolical watch. I don't know if I've got any better words for that, but yeah, it's really frustrating because Ethan mentioned we've got better players than that. Well, and obviously if we're good defensively, that's a bonus. But the thing is, we're not good defensively and we're not good going forward. So what are we doing? What are we doing?
Ethan, you mentioned the point about Northern Ireland, right? I don't watch any other national team apart from Scotland because I'm a diehard.
I didn't watch the game. I don't usually watch much international football either, apart from tournaments. But it's just what I heard from a lot of people that were sort of that were speaking about it and saying, making the point as to why aren't Scotland playing like that? And obviously, as I mentioned, managers have got different styles and whatever. But it's unbelievable. Yeah, but because watching that game today, Scotland struggled to beat Belarus's press. This is the team that's ranked 100th in the world. Scotland struggled to beat their press, but then when Belarus had the ball, the Scotland press was non-existent. It was like Scotland didn't have an organised press. They just kind of went here, went there. Oh, we'll close them down a little bit. You should be, as a Scotland team, as the superior team with the better players from number 1 to number 25 or whatever it is in that squad. You should be chasing the ball, and I know obviously you're pressing moments, but you should be pressing the players, two and three men, closing them down. And at the end of the day, if Belarus pass it around you and score a brilliant goal, then you put your hands up and say, okay, well done. But it's Belarus, it's not Brazil, it's not even Greece, it's not Denmark. Come on. I think every Scotland fan, or 90% of them, are in agreement that it's just too negative. And ultimately, if you want to make a World Cup, you want to really, I don't know, win a World Cup qualifying group with the likes of Denmark and Greece, you need to be more positive. And I know it's got us through 67 or 66.6% of the group, 2/3 of the group so far, but there's still a long way to go, and probably the longest way to go, because it's two very difficult fixtures, and with the mindset of the fans and how Scotland are playing. And you said it, Michael, the atmosphere was flat tonight. It was. And it must be difficult for the fans in the stadium. I feel sorry for the ones that went to the game, because the same as the ones that went on. Yeah, like Laurie, the ones that went on Thursday as well. Although Thursday, a great night, great celebration, a great win against a solid team. Tonight was a terrible performance. And although a win, it was kind of, when you knew there was going to be a long period of injury time, you were like, oh, I hope they just blow the whistle and don't add on injury time. I can't watch this anymore. It's that bad. And yeah, I just don't see how we turn it around for the next two games. I'm hoping that they make a World Cup and make a real impression with the players we've got, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Do you know what's one of my main concerns as well? Sorry to jump in front of you there, Michael. But we were talking about defence and stuff like that. See the amount of times I've seen us get undone by a straight ball over the top. You know, that's really concerning as well. We nearly conceded off of one where it seems like the defence stopped because they all thought he was offside in the first half, and it was a great run. He was clearly on, and it happened against them in the away game as well. Obviously, I think all sort of the warning signs were kind of swept under the rug because we were happy to get the draw in Denmark and then beat Belarus. But we've seen no improvement in general play, and they did it again tonight. And like I said, they nearly scored off of it. And if a team with more quality, more pace, like Denmark, for instance, if they can get in behind us, which I don't think they will do, because I think when we host them, we're going to park every man behind the ball. But if they can get in behind us with, like the likes of Rasmus Højlund, who we've seen a lot of talk about, De Bruyne's having he's sort of coaching him to make the runs in behind, because Højlund got so used to not getting the ball from his runs at Man United, he had to come short and get it. But Kevin De Bruyne's getting him to play more to his strengths, and that Rasmus Højlund's rapid and he can finish. And if there's good midfielders in that Denmark side that can pick him out, there's good defenders that can pick him out with a long ball. I know this is a really specific example, but it's someone who we will be going up against. And really concerning as well. Another is really funny, and that should concern all Scotland fans. From a Rangers fan perspective, I've seen a lot of similarities between the Scotland performances and the Rangers performances in terms of poor, slow play, being susceptible to long balls, being susceptible on the counter. Not enough sort of grit, not enough fight, not enough intensity in the play. I've seen a lot of similarities, and if there's any, I know the rest of Scotland have been laughing at Rangers this year. But if you've not actually watched Rangers, take it from me, it is really concerning because I'm seeing similarities.
And then obviously Eastern Scotland got the goal. Shea Adams, and I put in a group chat to you, I think it was during the game, like they've got to kick on from here, but didn't happen. No. And then obviously I think that was the only positive thing you could maybe take out that first half if it was positive.
Yeah, exactly that. It just really, it's tough to watch Scotland, and that's the thing, because the results are there. So at the same time, we're sitting here criticising Steve Clarke. He's got the results to prove that what he's doing is working, but it just seems inevitable that it's all gonna sort of unfold in these last two games, because like Alex was referencing to a team like Denmark, Belarus got into positions tonight where if they were a better side like a Denmark or a Greece, they could have scored 3 or 4 easily. And obviously Belarus haven't got the quality of players that they do, so finishing isn't as good. But the space was there, and Alex made the point that we'll probably be more tight against a team like that. But if we're not being tight at the back against Belarus, and we're not on the front foot pressing or keeping the ball for large periods and forcing the goalkeeper into a lot of saves, what are we doing? Like, what are we trying to do? And it just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be any sort of cohesion in the team. And yeah, I just have major concerns. Hopefully that game that kicks off in 10 minutes will be some sort of positive to take from this camp, although we're looking at 6 points and 10 from a possible 12, which I think everyone would have snapped your hand off for at this point. But it just doesn't seem like it's going to end well, and I really hope I'm proved wrong, because I'd love to see Scotland at a World Cup. But yeah, I just have no confidence in that. Even if we were to go into the playoffs, I just don't think Steve Clarke has the sort of bravery in the way he sets that team up to go and beat a team in the playoffs. I just don't think, and I think that's why we've been so poor in the last 2 European Championships. The last one, probably, we were the worst team at the tournament, and yeah, we just shouldn't be that for the players we have and the sort of squad that we have available at the manager's disposal.
Well, I know we've been harping on about this a lot, but we've got a guy who finished 18th in the Ballon d'Or rankings and just seems to have disappeared. And obviously, he kind of made his start of his form, and because Steve Clark discovered him in that role, and then the club managers went, "Oh, play him there," and he did well at United, and now he's got a mural in Napoli. He's kind of disappeared as well, and that's concerning also.
Sorry, Alex, that kind of leads me on nicely, because I was going to say, I know Graham was saying about Robertson getting done, as Robertson done for international football. No, but before I say this, I might get a lot of stick for saying this, but John McGinn, he hasn't been the same player since the Euros, I would say.
I thought you were about to say McTominay's done it at the last
No.
The way you built that up, I was like, what the heck? What's about to come out of his mouth?
No, I would agree, Michael. I don't think John McGinn's been the same player for Scotland for a while now. Maybe even a few games before the Euros, he's just not hit the heights they once did. And he's obviously a great player, captain of a Premier League side. And that's the kind of players we've got. A captain of a Europa League this season, Champions League last season, Premier League side, and a Ballon d'Or winner, one of the greatest fullbacks in Premier League history.
Sorry, did you say Ballon d'Or winner?
Or did I say Ballon d'Or winner? Yeah, Ballon d'Or winner. Yeah, no, Ballon d'Or nominee. Sorry.
I think you meant to say future Ballon d'Or winner for Ben Garendok.
Oh yeah, possibly. Although, maybe you never know. Hopefully,
they can't get in over big Antoine Semenyo.
Yeah, well, his time might come. But no, I just, I don't know. It feels like we've been so negative for a Scotland team that's picked up 10 points from 12, but it is really hard to watch, especially when they're going up against teams like this and just struggling. And I spoke about it before on the pre-show that Scotland hadn't scored 4 goals in a competitive match since June 2022, and I was hoping that was going to change tonight, but it just probably wasn't, was it? And I hoped for that, but didn't even get close in the end, and even scoring 3 goals in that game, although we done it the other night, seems a real struggle at the moment, and especially against teams like Belarus who are shipping 5 and 6, against the other 2 teams in the group that we've done quite well against. So yeah, it's a really strange situation with the national team at the moment, but hopefully they have performances to match the results in the last 2 games, and we can get there and we can actually be confident about going to United States, Canada and Mexico. And although I've given him a lot of criticism, do need to congratulate Steve Clark on becoming the Scotland manager to be in charge of the most Scotland games.
Somehow.
A lot of people believe that he shouldn't be in that scenario, but he obviously is. So congratulations to him, and hopefully he repays the
now he's got the record. Now he's got the record. Get him gone. No, but I think this is obviously completely hypothetical because it would never happen. But what if before the next break, would you guys take a managerial change in the midst of a group?
Yep.
I possibly would.
Yeah, I would as well.
Because I fear that even I mentioned that I fear that even if we do qualify, and obviously I want us to qualify, I don't fear the fact of us qualifying. But if we do qualify, then you can't revoke Steve Clark of his chance to take us to a World Cup. And I just don't see any positive outcome. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to speak to more people about this, but with how bad the performances have been, and if they don't get better in the next 2 games and somehow we keep fluking our way through these results, do you think a lot of Scotland fans will maybe be sort of, I don't think they will, right? But do you think any Scotland fans will sort of be not encouraged to go out to the World Cup and pay all that money if their team's going to be embarrassed on a global stage?
I think a lot of Scotland fans will be not encouraged to go out because of a lot of other factors. the state of the United States, the ticket prices, Ethan. We were going over them in university for one of our classes, global issues in sport, and it was absolutely mental. I think the opening match, the cheapest ticket was over $100 or something. Maybe $200. It was a crazy list. I don't know. I don't think any supporters would be discouraged from going because of who the manager is or because of how we're playing. Scotland fans just aren't like that. You know.
I pose the question because I would be. That's why I'm asking that. Because I just see it as I just can't have any sort of positive outlook on the national team at the moment. And although it'd be great to get there, and it would be a once in a lifetime opportunity, the last two tournaments have been nothing short of embarrassment, and I fear it'll only get worse on a global stage. And I don't know. I just can't see any scenario where there's a positive outcome where Scotland get out of a group. I have no faith in that. Not the team.
There's guys that are different from you though, Ethan. They go to the
of course.
The different parts of the world to. I nearly swore there. Sort of the bits of the world you maybe wouldn't want to go. Sort of every international break, every kind of every away day, there are people who go to Scotland games. I remember one time, sort of, I think we were away to the Faroe Islands or something, and we had a sizable away support there, and it was like a Wednesday night, and it was, and I was thinking, wow, I think we will still get a sizable turnout.
Of course.
And in America, Canada, and Mexico, if we make it. However, I'd understand if people were discouraged by certain political issues, but obviously that's not what this show's about.
I think the reason why I said no, Alex, is, and people might say, well, us, me and Ethan and you are off our heads because maybe Scotland's 2 games away for qualifying. But as I said on the pre-show to Reagan, and Reagan made the point about I'll just be happy for Scotland to win the World Cup, because obviously, as I keep reminding everybody, I'm the oldest here, so I remember Scotland got at the World Cup, and you guys hasn't saw Scotland get a World Cup bar the past 2 Euros as well. But I don't want Scotland to go to the World Cup to make up the numbers and for Stevie Clarke to be so negative we won't win the game. And like, this kind of backs my point up from watching the show on YouTube. Thanks for watching the show. It says Shankland should be playing. Now, I might be thinking about a broken record, guys. But I've been on about this for a while now. I mean, why do you actually bring a guy on with 2 minutes to go in a away game? And I can't remember for what away game it is. He got a point.
Georgia.
Aye. Every time I say this, I always forget that the game Scotland were, the team Scotland were playing against. But he came on, he got a point, right? See, the next game at Hampden, he was a sub. And I'm thinking, well, surely that's like a kick on the backside to Shankland, because he's came on in his first cap for Scotland. He's got us a crucial point away from home. And the next game he's on the bench at Hampden. And that's maybe why I don't want Stevie Clarke to be the manager of Scotland getting us to the World Cup, because I don't want him to be negative again, like what he get the past 2 Euros.
Also, he doesn't pick players on merit either. I think a lot of the starting 11 are the best options, but he picks a lot of random, additions. I think, Dykes has been all right this season for Birmingham. I think it might be his best season in a while, but I think he's scored like 3 goals, so that says something about Lyndon Dykes in his previous seasons. But choosing him break after break, squad after squad. When obviously Shanklin sort of had a down year last year, but he's sort of come back this season with Hearts. He's one of the better players in a title challenging side as it stands. I know that's a whole other discussion whether Hearts are actually in the title race or not, but they're top, so factually they are in the title race, and yeah, it's mental. Oh, also, maybe this is a bit of a weird shout, but this has just come to my mind there. We're talking about shoring up the defence. Craig Halkett, Scotland call-up.
Yeah, a lot of Hearts fans were really unhappy. I think they're really sort of saying, and I think other Scottish football fans as well were saying, why not? Why doesn't he deserve the chance? But as we know, Steve Clarke has got his favourites, and he very rarely sort of branches out from them. I mean, Kenny McLean tonight, I thought the game just passed them by. Really, I can't even remember Kenny McLean being on the ball at all.
Well, there was a point, I think, that summed it up for me, was when we just won the ball back. It was still around our box. Robertson laid it off to him, and he just waits and waits. The Belarus player next in front of him, and it takes him like a second to react, as if he doesn't know where he is. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
you need, like, things you get taught from a young age. Check your shoulders. Don't let the ball come to you. Go to the ball. He probably should have had a shout from his teammates, but it's on you to make sure you don't lose that and you do the basics. And just be on your toes. You get. I remember I've got that ingrained in my brain from playing football. On your toes. I'm sure you've heard that getting shouted at you as well if you're watching. And I couldn't believe the state of play that he was in, because for a long time I was, not like a supporter of Kenny McLean, but I was like, every time he played for Scotland, I thought he was like fine. He was solid. Didn't put a foot wrong. But Ethan, you're absolutely correct. Tonight the game just passed him by. And for anyone just tuning in and having no knowledge of what the game was tonight, no, we're not talking about Scotland versus like France or Germany or something. We're talking about Scotland versus Belarus, the 100th ranked team in the world. I know we keep going over the same points again and again, but it's baffling how bad we've been, and tonight was the cherry on top of how, on a cake of absolute garbage without swearing, but it's shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought, although I didn't think McGinn, McTominay, and Gilmore had the best games either, I think I can at least remember sort of slight positive moments that they done. Very rare, I will say. But
McTominay scored.
Yeah, McTominay scored, of course, and. Yeah, but I know I'd agree. I think Kenny McLean's been a good servant to the national team, and he's been a solid player. But when you've got players like Lennon Miller sitting there, and also, surely he's got to be watching the game and thinking, right, we're playing rubbish here. Belarus are getting back into this game. Let me make a change in let me make a change in the defence, not the midfield, not the attack, and. Just don't understand. And he started Christie and Ferguson the other night, nowhere to be seen tonight. And it wasn't as if the game was ever really comfortable.
Ferguson suspended.
Oh, is he? Right, okay.
He's injured, I think.
Oh, is he? All right, okay. Well,
injured or suspended.
All right, okay. I think Christie might be injured. I think I might have heard
That's why Conor Barron and Josh Mulligan came into the squad. But you spoke about Lennon Miller there, who is definitely better than Kenny McLean. I'd even go so far as to say Conor Barron's better than Kenny McLean as well.
Possibly. There's definitely a question to be had there. But as we know, he likes his favourites. And I dare say when the Greece game in Piraeus, I think it is, comes around, that Grant Hanley will be in the central of defence.
Yeah, but see, to be fair, that's my one kind of thing about Steve Clark. See, after seeing Jack Hendry and Scott McKenna tonight, I can understand why he's been picking Grant Hanley, because, oh my God, they were absolutely dreadful. For the longest time, I've been wanting Suter and McKenna. McKenna was honking. So
he was, but it is. I think it's always difficult when the whole team's playing rubbish. I think if you put McKenna in, well, a good Scotland team, a Scotland team that's playing well, then he looks a lot better. But I do take your point. He was really poor. So was Hendry. They were clueless at times, especially for that disallowed goal. It was.
Do you know who I can't believe even gets near Scotland squads? And it might be a lack of right back options, but Tony Ralston is so bad. You know, his range of passing is shockingly bad, and his accuracy is you know, he could hit a barn door with a shotgun. Even, you know, only a 5-yard pass. We saw that last year when he assisted Xherdan Shaqiri in Germany. Cracking finish, by the way. But you can't give Xherdan Shaqiri a chance like that. And there was a pass along the line, and we would have been away. And he just underhits it and scuffs it right into the Belarus left back. Ben Doak was in behind. I'm thinking that's classic Tony Ralston. And he looks like he's just had hip surgery when he's trying to turn on the ball. Like, you know, he's so.
I will say, apart from Aranaki, who was obviously injured tonight, not really get any better options, have we?
Nathan Parsons better than him when he's fit.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Our fullbacks, the majority of them suffer from fit very often, and obviously it could be the sort of final pieces that we need. But no, I think we're miles away from being the final product that can be a really positive and well playing Scotland side. And yeah, I just hope that we can turn it around, the performances in these last two games, and have a positive outcome on the qualifying campaign. Although, if we qualify, regardless of the performances, it'll be a positive outcome because of the time we've went without a World Cup. And I absolutely hope we get there, and hope people do have the chance to go over there and support the Scottish national team, because it's been too long. Although, as I made my point earlier, I think with the way Scotland have been playing and the way it's went in the last few tournaments, I think some people will maybe be sworn off of going. Maybe I don't know if that comes from. Well, it doesn't even. I mean, it can't even come from a point of being spoiled, because I have never seen Scotland at a World Cup, so it's just my opinion. And yeah, it might be a controversial one. Be interesting to see how many people agree with me, how many people don't. So yeah.
Let's get. I'm sure we'll get back to that and the show, and also the show coming up in November, because got bad news for you. Scotland got back in November, and with two big games coming up. Let's speak about our favourite subject on the show, VAR. Ethan, it was that I think the second half was stop start with VAR decisions. Let's go to Belarus's VAR goal, ruled offside. And as I said to you guys before the show, just as well for VAR, because we could have been sitting here talking about Scotland 2, Belarus 2.
Yeah, we definitely could have been, and it was lucky. I think Scott McTominay was filled in the build-up, but Scotland need to do so much more, as I mentioned. Anthony Ralston doesn't look like he's doing enough to get back and block the cross. Then Hendry and McKenna, the ball trickles along the floor. It's not a very good cross out of the box at all, but they just can't adjust their feet quick enough to deal with it. And then the winger at the back post gets in front of Robertson. Just a terrible goal, which sums Scotland's performance up at that point. And yeah, it would have been really interesting had it went to one each, to see if Scotland would have the resilience to go and find a winner. I think they probably would have done, and they did obviously find that second goal with McTominay anyway. But yeah, it was a. I think it just showed how bad Scotland were at that point in the game, and it was definitely off. It got off the hook with that one, but that and all the other VAR decisions, the penalties, the goal that Shea Adams scored with I think he scored with his hand, but he was offside anyway, even if he didn't.
I don't know if it hit his hand.
I think at one angle it looked like it never looked like it went straight in off his chest. One angle it looked like it was chest, then his arm, but he was offside regardless, so it wouldn't have really mattered. But yeah, I thought it was a good use of VAR tonight for the most part. But yeah, it made the game more stop-start, but I think it helped Scotland that it didn't let the better team build up momentum towards getting back into the game.
Yeah, Steve Clarke likes to drag the opposition down to our level.
And I suppose that's why you had 8 minutes after the game of injury time because of that kind of stop-start kind of thing. I don't know if I've told you guys, but since VAR came in, the referees, if it's in Scotland or European football, they love the attention. They just love it. It's like, no, I'm the ref. I make the decision. I will give you the answer in about half an hour, but I will give you the answer as well. And that kind of spoiled the game, Alex, tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's become a bit of a major issue with a lot of referees, and they want to be the centre of attention, and they want to grow their own celebrity. One guy, this is taking it off topic a little bit, but one guy who I see online quite a lot get a lot of stick, and I think it's justified, is Mark Clattenburg. I don't know if you guys have seen his clips of him telling stories and stuff, and I think he's trying to make him come across as a hard man, but he just comes across as a bit of a tool. With these decisions, and he'd do stuff personally, or he knows he makes a mistake, so he lets the team away with something in the second half or something like that, and it's.
I think that's good. I think that's a good thing as a referee.
They go through the mind of all referees. No, if it's the correct decision, you should make the correct decision. If you make a mistake, fine, shoulder it and go on. But
I feel like if you gave a bad decision against one team, then you should give a bad decision against the other team in the second half, balance it out.
No, that's just not. That's not fair on the other team, is it?
Well, yeah, kind of. Depending on what the decision is.
You've made a mistake, you're punishing the other team.
But you've also benefited the other team, so it's kind of cancels each other. I understand why it's a dangerous precedent to set though that, but I do probably understand that a lot of referees before VAR did go through that mindset.
And he's admitted stuff like personal vendettas against players and stuff like that, and about looking for excuses to yellow card someone or send somebody off or stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bit. I think it's a bit mental. So hopefully all referees don't think like that. But yeah, tonight definitely there was a case of look at me, and we're seeing that more and more. I think with the decisions and making the game about them, we see that a lot in Scotland. Actually, I don't want to single anyone out, but a guy who I think is really bad for that is David Dickinson. He really he stops the games and makes big deals and slows it down. And who's another one? The other guy, Andrew Dallas. I think he's quite bad for it as well. So, but anyway,
I think they're all sort of prone to a wee look at me moment, and fair enough. But sometimes it does sort of get in the way of the game, and it did at times tonight. But at the end of the day, if the VAR takes long to make a decision, and or the technology takes long to draw the lines on an offside or whatever, then there's only so much the referee can do, I suppose.
I'm sure that if you make a mistake at work, and believe you me, I've made one or two over the years, we will go up with P45 by now, but they're still in the job. But hey ho, let's not go down that rabbit hole, because that's another show for a completely different year as well. Alex, I'm not going to ask you to sum up the last two games, because I don't want you to phone your counsellor after the show, so I won't ask you to do it. But November, 2 games coming up.
Yeah. 2 massive games to hopefully achieve what we all want to see, what me and Ethan haven't seen since we've been born. So yeah, I would, if we want to go away from the negativity for a second, and just what it would mean to see Scotland in a World Cup for me personally. I'm sure for Ethan and all the other younger fans out there would be.
Oh, thanks, Alex.
Younger, I didn't say.
Yeah.
They were. Yeah, you could still be like 28 or something, and have seen Scotland in the World Cup, so you might not remember it. So that's your scenario, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah. Well done, Alex.
You were 1 year old. No, but yeah, it would mean a lot. It would mean everything to see Scotland compete on the world stage, because World Cup is one of my favourite things to watch. Even though there was a lot of controversy and political stuff around the Qatar World Cup, I loved it. Like waking up and watching a game at 10 o'clock, and then there was one in the afternoon, and then there was one at night, and you end up watching like the most random matches.
Well, that might not be the case at this World Cup coming up, though. You might have to be on the night shift to watch all the games.
I will be on the night shift because it'll be the summer and it'll be the World Cup, and I'll definitely be on the night shift watching all the matches. But yeah. And seeing Scotland involved in that would be great. Like, I love the Euros, but I don't think anything compares to the World Cup, does it?
No.
Just the sheer size and, the good feeling around a lot of it. And you see all these teams and you see the upsets and, like Saudi Arabia beating Argentina in the opening game. I know I was watching that in my room and I couldn't believe it. I think that was an early kickoff as well, a 10 a.m. kickoff. And yeah, it was great. And if Scotland were involved in that, it would mean everything to me. I don't really get too emotional. I feel kind of silly saying this, but thinking about it, I'm getting a little bit emotional because even over the years I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Scotland national team. I still, love my country, and I'm very, very patriotic. So yeah, it would be great.
Sorry, Michael, don't get emotional too soon, Alex, because there's still a long, long way for this to go before we're into a World Cup draw. So
it's all right. After that, play that speech to the players in the dressing room, and we'll batter Denmark and we'll batter Greece.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
I was just going to give a quick update from Copenhagen. 21 minutes in, still Denmark now, Greece now. Possession-wise, similar. Greece look to have the better chances so far, though. So, it looks like an even game, and hopefully it stays that way, because I think a draw is the best result for a Scottish point of view.
And look, we're not trying to be negative about Scotland on the show. We would love Scotland to qualify for the World Cup, and we were just giving our opinions about Scooby Clark. But I think guys like Scooby Clark would win over more fans if he was playing bringing subs on at the right time, and giving people caps like a few months ago.
Yeah, exactly. If he was, I don't know, just a little bit more positive. I think that's the phrase that I'll use. I think he's a little bit too negative, and of course it's worked for him through different jobs. Kilmarnock it worked. I imagine he was the same at West Bromwich Albion, where he had a pretty successful spell there as well, amongst other jobs. So, and then, of course, at Scotland, he's been one of the most successful managers. So, yeah, I mean, you can't criticise too much, although we have done. I think he does open himself up to criticism sometimes, but ultimately, if he gets us to the World Cup, I will be slightly forgiven for a wee bit until I see he's performing the World Cup, and hopefully it'll be a different story. I'll still hope that if we get there, then maybe against different teams from different continents, it'll be a different story. Against if you get an American team or an Asian team or an African team or a team from Oceania or whatever, then it might be a different story. But
yeah, I can't wait to see us get pieced up by Jason Cummings.
I don't think so.
Jason Maybe. Cummings and Martin Boyle battering into us.
I think as well, like, just to, even though we've maybe slated Stevie Clark tonight and we didn't mean that, like, we're going to set apart a Twitter page tonight as well for a supporter Spurs running to the next game called Stevie Clark #1. But I suppose to be fair to Stevie Clark, Alex, right, he can only work with the player that's coming through at the level. That's where it's totally different from, say, like Kamal, Rangers, Aberdeen, and all the rest, but where the windows are open twice and you can buy players, where Stevie Clark can only work with the players that's coming through. And then that leads me on to my next point, that we've got maybe a handful, maybe less than a handful coming through, but he's still not picking them.
Yeah, he's not giving them the chance to perform, especially when there's other players in the squad, the more senior, trusted members that haven't been performing, and it's a high pressure game in the sort of scenario that Scotland need to win, of course, against Belarus at Hampden, but they are players that play at a higher level than, I'd say, probably the majority of any of the players in that Belarus team. So, yeah, I don't really understand why he couldn't have. Lennon Miller's the one that comes to mind, especially why he couldn't have been given a start tonight when he gave Kenny McLean a start. And I seem to have jinxed it in Copenhagen because Denmark have opened the scoring. Rasmus Højlund scored again. So another Man United, ex-Man United player who's left for Napoli and flourished. What's that now? 6 goals in his last 4 games. So, yeah, he looks like he's went down the same route as McTominay, and maybe he'll be a Ballon d'Or nominee next season.
Alex, I was just going to say, last night we heard the news about Steven Gerrard not coming back to Rangers, and I specifically wanted to ask you, because you're a Rangers fan and you got the game to it as well. 2 questions from me before Ethan comes in with about 5 or 6. I know Ethan's got about 5 or 6 questions for you. Where does that leave Rangers?
Really?
Yeah. Where does that leave Rangers in the 49ers? But also, if they're looking for a new manager, will any of the new candidates will be saying, well, why are you speaking to me the now for? Because I was the second in command. I was the second in the crew next to Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, just your first thing on the 49ers ownership, I think. There's no. It might sound quite harsh because it's still already early, but so far it's been a failure. In terms of recruitment, in terms of managerial recruitment, in terms of on the pitch, off the pitch, everything has been a failure so far. To your other question about sort of will other managers look at that and go, "Oh, I was your second choice"? I don't know, because I don't think there was ever really, all the talk was about Gerrard, but I don't think I read anything that said that he was the actual first choice of the board. So Ethan's giving me a confused look, but I've been pouring through reports over the past few days. I've been on this making videos, and I haven't seen anything saying he was the first choice. I saw stuff saying he was the bookmaker's favourite. Take that with a pinch of salt. But I did see that they were still in discussion with other candidates like Danny Rowe. I've seen new names today: Ralph Hasenhüttl, Kieran McKenna, Raphael Vicky, former Young Boys manager as well. And I just want to talk about Gerrard for a second. I think he's burned his bridges now completely. He's turned Rangers down twice in the last 6 months. He left during a season. It seemed the fans had forgiven him for that, forgiven them from turning them down again. But now I feel like he can never come back to Rangers. I would not accept him now. I feel like he led us on quite cruelly. And yeah, it's not. I wouldn't want him anymore after that.
I think the thing with Steven Gerrard, I didn't think that he would be. I didn't actually think the 49ers would go for him. I always thought, I said this, that I thought Danny Rowe was the favourite of the candidates, and I still think he will be the Rangers manager, because I think he's in line with the sort of project that the 49ers are trying to build with a young and up-and-coming manager for the future. But I think they obviously did try and go for Gerrard in some way. And I don't know, I don't want to speculate, but sort of the speculation was that Steven Gerrard's still got some money from Saudi Arabia to come in and stuff like that. So I think there could have been a sort of there couldn't have been agreement there if maybe Steven Gerrard would have been losing a lot of money coming to work at Rangers from obviously being sacked at Al Ettifaq. And
I think Jordan Henderson's still battling to try and get some of his money from Saudi as well.
Yeah, and I think because Gerrard probably would have said, right, well, I'm leaving this money behind if I'm coming to work as Rangers manager. You're going to be able to give me that. And I mean, Rangers having to compete with Saudi money is going to be difficult. So I don't want to speculate and say that's 100% why it's not worked out, but I'd say that would be my guess, because I think for Steven Gerrard it was a really good opportunity for him to get back into management, a club he knows well and a club he had great success at in the past. Obviously the fans would love him to return. It worked for the 49ers in the sense that it probably wasn't down the model or close to what the Russell Martin appointment was, but it would get the fans back on side, because as Alex has said, they're not in the best vein. They're not in the sort of they're not in the best eyes of the fans at the moment. They're not the flavour of the month since they've come in. And of course it's very early and they've still got a lot of opportunity to turn it around, but factually they've taken the club backwards from since they've come in. Not on a financial basis, but of a team performance basis. Obviously still a lot of time to turn that around, but I do think it'll be Danny Rowe who's the next Rangers manager. He's a young and up-and-coming manager. He had a successful stint at Sheffield Wednesday in a very difficult situation there. And yeah, I think he'd probably be the best appointment of what I'd say, again, like maybe in the summer, best of a bad bunch, you could call it.
I don't know. Best of a bad bunch. The managers that I've seen recently, well, Danny Rowe looks decent. Ralph Hasenhüttl's had success, although he kind of lost the plot at Southampton. And I did see an interview with Ryan Bertrand basically talking about how he was a nutter. So maybe not Ralph Hasenhüttl, but Kieran McKenna is quite a good manager. I would probably take him. I saw Michael Carrick as well was linked with the job. I don't know much about Raphael Vicky or Wiki or however you say it, so I'd need to look into him a bit more. But I don't know if the candidates are as bad as you're making out.
Maybe not. Maybe they aren't. I think the initial ones were, but the few names that you kind of said to me there are a lot more. I don't know. They're a lot more positive sounding than maybe initially.
I really like Kieran McKenna as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that would be in the kind of direction that Rangers are going, because they're trying to build a long-term project. Obviously, the 49ers, they're not looking for quick fixes. I think they made that quite evident with the fact that they stuck with Russell Martin for longer than they probably should have done. They were willing to give him the time to turn it around. Obviously, he couldn't, and it didn't look like he was. But yeah, I think they need to get it right, though, because they can't have a sort of similar appointment to Russell Martin in the sense it's so poor, because then the 49ers could very much be chased out of town by the Rangers support.
I think one man, Alex, and we spoke about this when you were on the show, one man who would be really annoyed at Rangers, and he's a Rangers man, and I think he's still got a role at Rangers, is Barry Ferguson. Because I'm not saying that they will go after Barry Ferguson after Russell Martin. I would maybe give Ferguson the job before Russell Martin.
Maybe, but I don't think. I think Barry Ferguson was very much viewed as a stopgap, and the 49ers would want to come in and make their own mark, and they have, although it's a bad mark on the history of Rangers, one of the worst. Well, not one of the worst. I'm calling it the worst Rangers manager ever. He's got the lowest win percentage ever. So yeah, but I don't know if Barry Ferguson would be frustrated. I think he understands the way things work. I'm not saying he wouldn't have wanted the job, because I think he would have, because he's actually spoke about what he would have done in the transfer window since he departed as manager in his sort of role on the radio and stuff. He's obviously still a club ambassador. When Russell Martin was sacked, I saw a little piece of an interview Barry Ferguson did, saying basically he was happy in his ambassador role right now, which I think is code for they've no asked me. Yeah, but I don't know if he would be. He probably would be upset, but I don't think he would be upset with the people themselves. Plus, as well, Barry Ferguson, he would, people have made a big deal about this, 23 consecutive run and blamed a lot of it. Conceding 23 consecutive games where Rangers have conceded in away games, which is horrific, and a lot of people have blamed Russell Martin for that. Half of the games are probably Barry Ferguson as well, so I don't know if he's the solution.
I'd completely echo your point. Sorry to jump over you, Alex, but the last, I think Le Guin was the manager who had the permanent manager who had the worst win percentage before Russell Martin, but Barry Ferguson had a lower win percentage than him. So it's not as if
I saw a thing the other day that actually it wasn't Le Guin. Le Guin was a bit higher
than Caixinha.
It wasn't Caixinha. Got the list here. So Caixinha had 54, John Gregg had 52, Paul Le Guin had 52, Jock Wallace was the next on 44, right, and then Russell Martin all the way down on 29.
Yeah, I got informed by misinformation. My apologies. But yeah, the point still stands. Barry Ferguson, I think it's 40% it said in front of me. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but obviously that's less than a lot of the names that you said. So he done what he sort of needed to do in that time. He kept the support happy, got some big results, the win at Celtic Park, the win against Fenerbahce. But ultimately, I don't think he was ever going to be the long-term answer for the 49ers when they come in. And yeah, he might feel a wee bit hard done by, but I don't think he'd probably done enough, and it was going to be a massive job he'd have to do in that time to convince the 49ers otherwise, because I dare say they probably had Russell Martin on their mind for quite a while, and that's why it is so such a obstacle that it's been so poor, because I think most people didn't really like the Russell Martin appointment. I didn't think it was all that bad. I could see the sort of angle they were going for. Obviously, it didn't work out, but I think it shows that it is so difficult to appoint a manager, and there's never one that's sort of risk-free, especially when Rangers have went through so many managers in recent times. So, I think Steven Gerrard's the only one. I might be wrong. I probably am wrong here, but sort of in between Walter Smith being manager and now, I think Steven Gerrard was one of very few to not be sacked. Would that be right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think Mark Warburton was sacked. He left for Nottingham Forest.
Oh.
But yeah, he's one of the few, I think. I think Alan McCoy's left as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I take your point. Sorry.
I was just asking because I didn't want to say it as fact when I didn't 100% know, but I hope that I think you've both got the point I was trying to make, that there's been a lot of managers, and it isn't easy, especially when there's the atmosphere around the club right now, and probably for whoever comes in, there's going to be a large section of the Rangers support not happy with it, and that's just the way it is. But I imagine they'll still get behind the team and support the team, and hopefully for the 49ers and the Rangers fans and the club as a whole, that they can come to a successful.
See for this squad as well. Sorry, Ethan.
No,
I think they need someone to come in and take the shackles off them, because I feel like there's so many good players in that squad that we've not seen anywhere near what they're capable of.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think this might be a left field punt. Would you bring Van Bronckhorst back, Alex? Because without all the managers you round off, all no disrespect, but they were all failures apart from Van Bronckhorst.
Van Bronckhorst is an interesting one because I don't think he would return from Rangers. To Rangers, sorry. He's currently Arne Slot's assistant, I think, at Liverpool, or he's on the coaching staff anyway. Because he was treated poorly on the way out. One of his last games, Michael Beale was actually in the crowd. And, I think it's come out that he was there in talks for the job.
Was that at Hampden, Alex?
No, it was at home. It was at Ibrox, I think, and Michael Beale was in the crowd, and but to be fair, a lot of fans I think have been quite hypocritical. I've seen a lot of people talking about how poorly when Van Bronckhorst was treated. We never should have sacked Van Bronckhorst. But if you go back, the fans were spearheading that decision, as they do with nearly every managerial decision they put the pressure on. They were confronting the team outside St Johnstone, shouting at Tavernier, shouting at Van Bronckhorst after they drew or lost to St Johnstone or something at McDermott Park. So,
I mean, you sorry, Alex, but you were only I know football's kind of if, buts and maybes, and it's history as well, but you were only one kick away from winning the Europa Cup, and that was under Van Bronckhorst.
Yeah, I think it was
a
knee-jerk reaction.
I've got an update from Copenhagen. It's now looking like it's Denmark 3, Greece now in the first half. So looks like Greece have been completely blown out the water in Copenhagen, much like they were in Piraeus, and that'll be them out of qualifying completely, and it'll be between Denmark and Scotland for first and second, and yeah, 2 goals in the space of a minute. Joachim Andersen with a header and Mikael Damsgaard 41st minute. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to the proposition of playing Denmark at Hampden. Obviously, we've got Greece to come first. Hopefully, their heads will be low and they'll not have anything to. Obviously, they don't have anything to play for apart from pride, but I think they want to get a bit of revenge on Scotland, possibly. But yeah, that looks like that's a game done there. I don't see Greece coming back from that, and yeah.
There you go. That's the debrief of what the debrief was. I don't know about the Scotland game tonight. All we could say was we won the game. We're back to domestic action at the weekend. We'll be back on Friday. Thanks to Alex, Ethan, for joining me on this kind of post-mortem, I would say, counselling session. And we'll be back on Friday to look ahead to the Premiership returning, and there's some big games at the weekend. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just look for the Scottish Football Zone and hit the wee bell there, and you'll get notifications when we go live. So we'll be back on Friday at 5 o'clock for our usual preview of the weekend. So thanks to Alex and thanks to Ethan, and we'll see you on Friday. Just a good timing, Alex. See you soon.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions